City of South Fulton Charter Commission meeting dated October 18th, 2022, at 6 p.m. Mr. Clerk, would you give us a roll call?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. It's the roll call for tonight's meeting. William Bill Edwards, Chair.
Here.
Judge Kenya Johnson, Vice Chair.
Present.
Benny Crane.
Present.
Dedrain D. Franklin.
Present.
John Herring.
Present.
Cecily Cole Martin will be absent. Suzanne Ockleberry.
Here.
Marshall J. Taggart, Jr.
Present.
Daphne Jordan. Doree Henry. Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Crane, you want to lead us in invocation?
Let us pray. Dear gracious God, we thank you for this day and for all the many blessings that you bestowed upon us. We thank you for every household that's represented here today, God, and we pray that the city's work will be done in a very, very way that will please you. We pray that the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts will be acceptable in your sight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance, please. Mr. Clerk, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
It's been properly moved to second. I'm sorry. It's been properly moved. Okay. It's been properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Let's vote by hand, please.
I record that as unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I'll ask for a motion to approve the 9/20/2022 minutes, please.
I move for the adoption of the minutes from 9/22.
So moved.
Properly moved to second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Let's vote by hand, please.
Record that as unanimous.
Before we get into the public hearing, a couple of things I want to acknowledge. And one is to our council here at our commission. This is a public hearing. We're here to listen to what the public has to say. We don't have to engage in any conversation or any debate on any one of these items that may have been referred by this council. So I would ask that you keep that in mind as we move further. I'm sorry, you create this committee. Strike those to make committee. Secondly, I've asked the clerk, could you read the mission of this council?
Yes, the mission of this charter commission is outlined in the city charter, section 7.18, and it reads thusly. At the first regular scheduled city council meeting, 5 years after the inception of the city of South Fulton, the mayor and city council should call for a charter commission to review the city's experience and recommend to the General Assembly any changes to the city charter. Members of the charter commission shall be appointed as follows. Did you want me to read the rest of that? Okay. Should be appointed as follows. 1 by the mayor, 1 by the city council, and 1 by each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the city of South Fulton. All members of the Charter Commission must reside in the city of South Fulton. The commission must complete the recommendations within 6 months of creation. The commission shall make its recommendations in writing directly to each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the city of South Fulton. The members of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the city of South Fulton should call said charter commission if the mayor and city council fail to call such commission at the time required by this section.
Okay.
That completes.
Thank you. I want him to read that into your hearing as we talk, as we have a public hearing tonight, that we may stay on point. This is all about recommendations to charter. If you're not germane, I will let you know if you're not germane. We want to keep it flowing the way we should. So at this time, Who's up first?
Yes, we have 3 comments that have been received. We have 2 people in person and 1 written. So the first speaker is the Honorable Helen Zenobia Willis, representing District 3.
Before Councilwoman Willis comes, come on, Helen. What was that time limit?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
If it's all right to the council, I would engage that she is an elected official. That's nothing unusual. That we let her have an additional minute. Is that okay? Is that the preference? Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I want to extend my condolences to you, Ms. Franklin, on the loss of your mother. I empathize, so I know exactly what you're going through. I want to thank each of you, for undergoing this process that's required by the charter to undergo, and participating in this arduous task. I think that I'm very disappointed that we don't have more residents here to provide public comment, because if it's any changes to the charter, I'm pretty sure it would be a lot of backlash or comments or questioning, and this is the time for residents to engage. I am not here to be critical. I just want to ask you all to go back and look at 2 things, to consider going back, looking at 2 things, and making, before you finalize your recommendations. One, there was a bit of confusion in section 7.18 of the review of the Charter Commission on how we appoint individuals, and I think that needs to be clarified. I think that there needs to be language put in the charter to say no current city elected official shall serve on the Charter Commission. Therefore, we won't have to worry about individuals appointing themselves. We understand the intent of the charter was for individuals for each council, for the state representatives to appoint someone, the council to have an appointee, and the mayor to have an appointee. But we know that that did not occur. The intent of the charter did not occur, and you all had to make a decision to request for someone to step down. So I just think to alleviate that going forward, if you can just put some type of language, recommend to the General Assembly to put something in the language saying that no current city elected official shall serve on the Charter Commission. The other section I did some extensive research on. That's section 4.14. And I have given you the documents, and I'm going to email you the documents because it has some hyperlinks in it. So what I did was I went back and pulled the ordinances of how things were and why things were changed. Then I did research on cities that had a population of 50,000 or more with the same type of government, city council, city manager form of government. And in 2018, when we were in the transition period, department heads were approved by city council, appointed and approved by city council. What I would tell you is that that was a very challenging time because department heads felt like they were supposed to be, it became very political. And the person who's responsible for managing the day-to-day operations is the city manager. And when the city manager is not able to hire and make decisions on their department heads, and you have elected officials getting involved, it can become very political. And I just think the person who's responsible for the day-to-day operations needs to have sole authority on who's hired, and they should have opportunity to build their team. The person in the role that we currently have may not be in this role forever. And so what we don't want to do is hinder our opportunity to get the best talent. And what will be a hindrance to getting the best city manager is if they feel they can't come and build their team. On the city manager, city council form of government, most city managers would like to build their team, and then I've seen some instances where city managers bring their team with them. We lost opportunity to hire a very good city manager because that city manager did not feel that they can bring their team. And so I didn't just, so in 2018, and once the transition period was over, it was changed that the city manager would be responsible for hiring department heads and managing the department heads. But before I sit down, I just want to explain to you that I did do research. I did do research, and what you have before you is a document that outlines 6 cities, city council, city manager form of governments. It has their population. I gave you the hyperlink, and I will have this emailed to you by the city clerk for you to go and click, and it will take you to the Muni code. And in Albany, you have the City of Albany commissioners, and commissioners are council people. That's just what they call them, commissioners. The city manager, the City of Albany commissioner, they approve the city manager, the city manager, the city attorney, the chief of police, the chief of fire, the chief judge, the city clerk, the assistant clerk, and the city solicitor. So the mayor appoints, the commissioner approves. City of Sandy Springs is the most like the city of South Fulton. Except we don't have a tax collector. But in the Sandy Springs, they appoint the city clerk, the mayor appoints the city clerk, the tax collector, the city accountant, the city attorney, the city manager, the acting city manager, the municipal judge, and the city solicitor is subject to confirmation by majority vote of the city council. In Savannah, you have the mayor and the aldermen. They appoint the city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney. They don't have a per se municipal court. They have a recorder's judge, and that person is an elected official, and the DA handles all prosecution in the city of Savannah.
Ms. Willis, your time's up. And let me apologize to you. I kept looking away from you because the clock was
Oh, I
messing
didn't
up.
know you
No,
I was
yeah.
doing time.
The
So
clock was messing up.
to end this so that I can sit down, the recommendation is that the city council approves the assistant manager and the HR director. I feel that that is totally inappropriate.
Okay.
Those should be city managers, hires, and they should be under the direction of the city manager.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to think I was not listening to you. I was watching that clock that it was messing up over. Okay, please send that information to us. And thank you for coming, Councilwoman. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, the next speaker is Mr. Michael Venable.
How you doing, Michael? Good.
Oh, I'm here to voice disagreement with proposed changes to Section 210A and Section 414. Increasing the district size by over 50% will severely stress a part-time representative. The only thing that an at-large position will do is to give that respective councilperson's districts a second preferential vote to that district. The action is a charade to disenfranchise the one person, one vote standard. There are North, South Fulton advocates and South Fulton advocates. The truth may hurt, but it is real. A culture of my district mentality instead of our city mentality exists, and two voices will not overcome that. If the rationale is purely sincere, then all seats should be voted on by the entire city population. You would be required to live in your respective district, but the whole city would vote on you. Secondly, it should be an all of none. To really get this city to work, all of the department heads and directors should be approved by the council. If the majority of the council has confidence in the department heads, perhaps they will allow the city manager and staff to do the charter-specified jobs without interference. By cherry-picking the assistant manager, the finance director, and the human resource director, we have important positions that have been omitted. For example, the community development and regulatory affairs director, as well as the economic development director, sets policy and actions that directly affect public safety, city funding, and municipal image. These sections need a new and complete reevaluation.
Thank you so much, Michael. Next person, please.
The next comment is a written comment submitted by Councilperson Catherine Rao. She states, typically employers consider 30 to 40 hours per week full-time employment. As an inaugural member of the City Council, I've almost never worked less than 30 hours per week on behalf of my constituents. The volume of community and board commission meetings that we attend or have to at least be knowledgeable about consumes a considerable amount of time. Beyond attending council meetings, we need to stay abreast of tracking board commission activity, and engaging with our constituents occurs a minimum of a few times a week and most Saturdays, which necessitates acknowledgement that this is not part-time work. If you attend events like the Atlanta Regional Commission, Georgia Municipal Association, and Council for Quality Growth events, most of these events are held during the day. Given this reality, it makes it challenging for any elected official to maintain a regular 9 to 5 p.m. job, because employers will likely not offer the flexibility to take off work as needed to effectively serve. The city of South Fulton was ranked by Redfin as the fastest growing city in Georgia. We need to compensate this position appropriately so that we can continue attract candidates to hold these offices. I am concerned that based on the current compensation, it would be difficult to continue to attract quality candidates. In our 5.5-year history, you have experienced a 50% turnover, 1 who stepped down, and 3 at the will of the voters, even though we have term limits. There is benefit and stability in tenure, especially when starting a new city. That's the end of the comment.
Next person. I think someone came in. Anyone come in and sign up to want to speak? Anybody came in?
I think that completes all of the speakers for this evening.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Open the floor to any commission person who wants to have discussion on any item. Committee. Mr. Taggart went to Clark. You reminded me. That's what I said, Taggart. Taggart. Mr. Taggart went to Clark. He continuously wants to correct me, so Clark Atlanta, excuse me. Any discussion on anything you've heard here today, Madam Assistant Chairman?
Thank you all so much to everyone for their public comment. I'd like to address the last comment first, which is by Dr. Rao regarding full-time work for the council. I certainly appreciate the dedication of our council and the work that they do in the community. I see the off hours, and also by having full-time employment limits conflicts and limits the need to want to have other income-generating opportunities for full dedication. You know, this hasn't really been discussed before, but I'd be interested to hearing any downsides beyond money as to why our dedicated council people should not be full-time.
Okay. Any further comment on that issue? Mr. Taggart, go ahead.
Yes, I too agree with Madam Vice Chair. The thought process is I'm trying to get a clarity. Is it the request about full-time designation or full-time pay?
I understand
what are we
both.
referring to?
I heard both.
Okay. I wanted to bring that up because the designation gives, I'm assuming, some type of benefits or some type of full-time status, holidays. I don't know what that requires or what that would be, but I'm assuming we're talking about both in terms of pay
To
and
justify it,
designation.
excuse me, but to justify it, you would have to be talking about both.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Go ahead. I'm sorry, I'll get to you, Mr. Go ahead, Mr.
Concerning, I think I turned it off. Okay, concerning, Council Rao's, concern, if we decided to do that, you know, do you guys still have assistants? You know, they
No,
appointed assistants to help you guys? Okay.
Just-
So if we decide to entertain the full-time positions for the councils, what will we do with the assistants? Would they stay on?
No. We don't really know.
Please.
Just getting your opinion. That's
Yes.
what was said today.
Well, that was one of the questions that I want to ask, so I could,
This may call for a special call meeting,
okay.
and so we can deal with that. Any further comments on that issue? I'll start, Mr. Crane was next, and then, Ms. Jordan's going.
My question is kind of directed to the clerk. With Councilman Rao's comments, and I may have missed the beginning of it, but was she speaking on behalf of the entire council or herself when she was talking about the exhaustive number of hours? I see your head nod that perhaps not.
Yeah, I don't know, but the answer is I don't know because I didn't talk to her about this, but I just wanted to point out that I did include the written comments in your folders for context purposes in terms of what it says. But based on what she presented, my understanding is that this is her comment
Okay.
relative to her in District 1.
The reason I raised that question because she spoke about 30 hours a week that she's working, and that may or may not be true for all council members. I don't know if this is the right time or place for us to make that type of value judgment. Some may be working more, some may be working considerably less. So I don't know if we have enough information to adequately weigh that proposition because, again, that may be an outlier of 30 hours. That's all I have, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
let me say this, Mr. Crane, I think, Councilwoman feels the same way. She was giving her opinion when she came up here. I think this is something that can actually be dealt with by the commission or the council. I guess on the home rule, would I be correct in assuming that, Mr. Attorney? Could they do this on the home rule? Answer is probably yes, we did it before.
Mr. Chair, I believe that they can change that via home rule.
Salary.
There would be some restrictions on that as far as raising the salaries and when that will be able to go into effect.
I got you. So the salary is not the full-time or part-time status, okay? Ms. Jordan, go right ahead.
That was actually what I was going to recommend, is that they use the home rule enactment to put that into play. I mean, they could have already done that, I think, already if they wanted to. From my understanding, they didn't need the Charter Commission to assist with that. So, I mean, I agree. I think, I think everyone who was elected in these positions knew right away that they were part-time positions. And as a citizen, I think from our perspective, we were looking to elect people who had full-time jobs. So they were, well aware of what they were kind of walking into. And then over the years, there were changes for the legal aids, and they're actually paid on a full-time status. So to me, that's where your balance is. You have a full-time aide, you're working part-time, so there's probably a lot of delegation. And at this point, if the council wants to change the salaries, I'm presuming they can do that in home rules by looking at the budget and letting that be a line item from the budget.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Any other comments on this particular issue? Hearing none, let's move, any other comments?
All right,
from
one
any other
comment.
issues? Go ahead, Mr. Taggart.
Just looking at her comments in writing, it sounds like this is rooted in fairness and equity. And it also deals with the constant value of time. And so I just wanted to make sure that citizens in South Fulton understand, we understand the comment, but I think Ms. Jordan is referencing the pay. Do we know what the full-time pay for sitting city council members in terms of a comparison with organizational research?
No,
Is
we
that
don't.
something? And my second question is, are we looking to place this in the city charter document? Because we
Let-
don't want to get into a position of setting
let-
up ceiling
Let
for
me
those
answer,
council.
let me answer both of those questions. I think that you can research and find the answer to your pay issue. But I think some of the things that were said here today is gonna take another meeting, our final meeting, to see if we want to incorporate that into the document that we've already had. And I think we're gonna have to do that, right? So during that time, whatever we set, you may find the answer to those questions, all right? Anything else on this issue? Anything else on any other issue that's brought up by the citizens? Mr. Venerable talked about the at-large positions. Any issue with that? Any questions about any conversation? All right, hearing none. I would like to ask the council, or am I right now? Committee, if they would, if we choose, we've heard from some, I think there's some integrity in what was said today that would warrant us to have our last and final cleanup meeting. If in fact that if you feel that it's necessary, I would like to hear what is the most appropriate time for each one of us to have that meeting, knowing that once we meet the second time, after that, we're going to, send the document to the state. Go ahead, Mr.
Yes, Mr. Chair, pursuant to the schedule, the next meeting is on the regular schedule, Tuesday, November 1st at 6 p.m., unless, I know you mentioned a special call meeting.
No, I'm sorry, that's the
Okay.
meeting I'm talking about. Okay. We can keep it to November the 1st. I have no problem with anybody in this committee picking the phone up and calling councilwoman or whatever to answer some of your questions or you may have, or to some of our citizens, so we can get clarity. But when we come back on November of the 1st, we'll be ready to conclude this and move this document forward.
Question.
Let's go ahead.
Are we only going to be, when we come back on November 1st, looking at?
Microphone, please.
Sorry. Are we only going to be looking at the citizen comments and whether or not any changes are warranted, or will we be able to reconsider other issues?
Well, Ms. Ockleberry, I think that we did that at our last meeting. However, I understand your situation, and so if in fact there's is a consideration that we could hear it when you come back on the 1st. But the answer to your question is that we want to consider the information that was given to us today. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Crane, go ahead.
we've heard a few comments tonight. Most of them that I heard can be handled either with home rule, or the council members can go directly to the state legislators like they always have been able to do. I don't see any significant reason why we should prolong this, because they have that right all the time. The charter is being reviewed constantly by the council. They can take comments from the public to guide their decision on what recommendations to make, whether it's full-time pay, full-time positions, whether it's who decides who hires whom. All of those things the council could have made part of their legislative package at any time. And I believe the council, the delegation is either in receipt of that or they're waiting for that. And they can always add to that, is my thought.
Thank you so much, Ms. Crane. I hear what you're saying. I would like to take the time to talk with the attorneys and other people to make sure that, we are straightforward in our thinking about it. So I do hear what you're saying, and I agree. But I just think that we need to make sure that we don't have any loose ends. We tighten it up while we have our conversation. Anybody, Madam Chair?
Mr. Chair, can we commission a short study of comparisons of similar sized cities and how their council is structured, full-time, part-time, and what those pays may be, salaries may be?
Anything could be done. I just think that we're diving over into an area that we shouldn't be diving into. All right, and that's my comment. That's my personal. They'll know what they need or what they think is appropriate when they come on the home rule and do what they have to do. I just think when we get into telling people that we're going to let you make $60,000, $100,000, and recommending that to the state, I think it causes us a problem. So that's just my personal opinion. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair. I think during your opening comments, you indicated that we should only consider those factors that we have been tasked with based upon our mission at hand. However, information has come to us from our open forum that we had. I think we need to consider that in terms of just moving the recommendation, even though, as one of the colleagues on this commission indicated, that the council and others have direct access. Well, maybe they do and maybe they don't. But that's not the point. The point of the matter at hand here, in my view, is that it came to us and we need to act upon it accordingly. If it can be resolved at home rule, then we need to move it in that direction. We must consider it because it came directly from the public.
I agree with you 100%, and that's the point I'm trying to make. That we do take into consideration, but we have to go back to our attorneys and go back and look at some other things to see what we can change about it, and what we can't, right? Because a lot is going to be about what the council can do for themselves and what we recommend to the state as to what they want. So I'm with you, John, 100% on that. If you came down here to make a comment, we need to hear that comment. And we need to make sure we support ourselves appropriately. Go ahead.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair. So we got representation, I'm looking at the buckets, representation, appointments, and salaries in this regard. With the process here, with the recommended change recommendations, will council approve or disapprove prior to going to the state?
No.
Okay.
There's one thing we had not, I was brought to my attention that we had not talked about, but Mrs. Councilwoman Willis got and hit on it, and that was, we had a lot of conversation about council people appointing themselves to committees. Mr. Clerk, did we ever vote on that, or did we?
No, that was never put in the form of a motion.
We can either do that now or do it next meeting, but Ms. Ockleberry?
I thought there was I thought I did recommend under section 4.11 that we were gonna strike under D, except as otherwise provided by charter or law. So it just read, no member of any board, commission, or authority shall hold any elective office. Could be wrong. That's in my notes.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was brought to my attorney.
Now, whether or not it passed, but I know I made that recommendation.
I got you, D. D, you want to say something? Thank you, Ms. Ockleberry.
Actually, I think that's how the whole discussion started, when we were discussing about elected officials being a part of the committee. So I think it's already in here someplace. I want to kind of look through.
It was.
Yeah, for clarification, my recollection of what happened, and I'll check the minutes and the tape. The removal of the mayor, it was a request made to remove him, and it was asked to cite the reasoning. And you read what you just read, and then a vote was taken to ask the mayor to appoint someone. And that was the vote that was taken, but there was no request to change the charter as a change. But I may be wrong, so I'll check
No,
the.
you're probably right,
You're
but
absolutely
I had it noted to strike that first provision to address what Councilwoman Willis had put forth. So I don't know if I need to make a motion. Under 4.11D, it would be to strike except as otherwise provided by charter or by law. And it would start with no member of any board, commission, or authority shall hold any elective office in the city.
And while it's being seated, I think that was another issue that was brought about, is to be a no seated elected official. Does that make sense?
Well, if they're
I'm
holding
just
an
asking.
elected office,
Right.
right, wouldn't they be seated? So if we just change it to remove that first provision before the comma, I think we could address what needs to be addressed.
How about your legal expertise? Go ahead, Madam Vice Chair.
I second the motion.
It wasn't a motion, man.
I did.
You did? You
My
second?
motion was to amend section 4.11D to remove the language, all the language before the comma, so that the section would start with no member of any board, commission, or authority shall hold any elected office in the city.
Okay, that's been properly moved in second. Discussion? Mr. Taggart, and then I think Ms. Jordan had her hand up.
Can we hear from the city attorney in terms of that motion or that section being able to opine?
Sure.
What
Mr.
our committee member said?
Mr. and Mrs. Attorney?
Good evening. That section 4.11 relates to boards created by ordinance by the city council, not boards by charter that's already created without city council action. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that if you're wanting to apply it to that, it wouldn't be that section.
So with that, I guess,
Go ahead.
I'll have to find some other place to put it, but that would be the language that could be used. It just would have to go, let me look under where it would go.
While you're looking,
Okay.
let me, Ms. Jordan, you can go ahead and speak, please.
I'm gonna amend it
Okay.
as soon as I find it.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering, why can't we just, are we not able to add it into this same section with additional language so that no one is confused, because apparently someone was confused and they thought they could appoint themselves?
The attorney was not denying that. She said you
No,
need
I'm
to
not
put it
saying the
someplace
attorney
else.
was.
That's not the right.
I just want to,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel. Can we just, add additional language in the same section to make sure that no one, let me choose my words very carefully, to make sure that we are all in alignment as we're reading this information,
Yeah.
that we don't have to go to yet another section to find exactly what we're looking for. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yeah.
But I think what the city attorney is saying, if that's not the proper section, if we want to be if we're talking about a board or any authority created outside of the commission, the council, and that's what happened. So I think the language is correct. We just need to find
No, you
another
hear what she
place
got to
to
say.
put the language so that it would apply to, for instance, the charter commission or any other commission created by an entity other than council.
I see.
Madam Attorney, it looks like you want to say something.
Now, if you wanted to put that specific language in 7.18, it would only apply to the charter commission. But as
There we go.
Ms.
That's-
Ockleberry stated, she wanted to make sure that it applies to different boards.
Understood.
Ms. Ockleberry, you,
And I think that's the issue, is to make sure that they're not serving on.
right,
Is it on now?
yes.
Okay. So I was just trying to find an appropriate place to put it so that it applies to all boards and commissions. But I guess if you leave it, that's what I'm thinking, if you leave it under 4.11D and then add it to 7.18, I think that'll cover all bases.
There you go. All right. D, go ahead.
You don't
Well,
need
the
to.
one that, I
It's
guess,
already-
under 4.11, it's applying to all city council-created boards and commission, and I think if you add it to 7.18, it'll apply to the charter commission. I don't know if there's any other boards or
Well-
commissions other than those created by council for which a council person should not serve on.
Do you want to amend your motion?
So I'm
or-
amend my motion.
Wait a minute. Taggart.
I'm gonna amend my motion.
Taggart, let's hear what your amendment.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
I'll amend my motion. So I amend the motion to add the language of 4.11D after the comma to 7.18.
Okay, second.
Properly moved and second. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, let's vote by hand, please.
A point of clarification, we're voting on the amendment first. Is that correct? Well, to amend it, to accept the amendment, the motion, there was a motion, there was a second. Once there's been a second, the matter belongs now to the body. So we have to have majority approval of the body to accept the amendment and then vote on whether
And I have no problem procedural wise with that, but I think that's what we just did.
So what are we doing? So I'm asking,
Now
are
you
we
can bring-
voting on the amendment or to pass the motion?
We voted on the amendment.
Okay,
Amendment.
to accept
To
the
accept.
amendment.
Right.
Okay.
Now, we can make the motion.
She did.
I did make
That is it. It is it. That's okay.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
So have we voted?
You got your counsel. We voted.
Well, we need to know what the clerk, is a unanimous consent, sir?
0.1D.
Clerk,
Yeah,
it was
I
unanimous.
think the judge had a question, so I didn't catch your vote, Judge Johnson.
Did you vote?
I responded.
Okay.
So is that
So,
He's asking, did you vote to approve the amendment?
to approve?
in affirmative or the negative?
I abstained.
You're abstained, okay.
All right. Okay.
So I have one abstention.
Any further conversation on anything? I'll accept the motion that we always like to give.
Oh, okay. So just to be clear, if I can be recognized, all the other items that were presented by individuals in the audience, are we going to definitely take that back to present on the first, just for clarification?
We passed those along. However, I did give some respect to Ockleberry because she did not,
That's
because of the issue that she had. She may have to give us some leverage where she can make some comments on that.
That's right. I just want to make sure no one else has any.
No. All right. Can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
The proper move and second to adjourn.
Okay, have a good evening.
I'm surprised my trusted colleague didn't.
Take all.
So they have this one, but then I just need to